All right. So this is the Sustainable Motherhood interview series where it's all about, I don't know. I really don't know. I say that all the time because I'm like, I don't need to know.
No.
I don't need to know the answers. I don't need to know what this is about. I think it's about real and raw and vulnerable conversations. And that is so why I'm excited to have you here today, Miss Jen Oliver. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. I'm going to read your bio.
Okay.
It's going to be very professional here. So Jen is a catalyst for change. She is an outside of the box thinker, enthusiastic connector. Yes, she is. She is a core transformation coach and the founder of the Love FitMama Way. Through safe core fitness, self-care, mindfulness, she supports new moms to embrace, nurture, and enjoy their motherhood journey. And you are so passionate about supporting women to love their bodies and their life. Hell yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Hell yeah. And you are a new author.
Yes, indeed.
Your book called
Mama Way, the Love FitMama Way, transforming the core of motherhood.
Awesome. And it's not, as we're recording this, it is available on
Kindle. Free Kindle app on your phone or device. And it is available for download and reviews ready now for you.
Yay. And then the paperback book is coming.
It's coming hopefully next month.
Oh my gosh, this is so exciting.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I know you personally, Jen. We're from the same town. For those of you who have no idea, we're from Windsor, Ontario, Canada. You and I go way back. And it's been beautiful to be behind the scenes with you, right? Watching each other grow and evolve as women and mothers and business owners. And I think that's something that lacks in the community of women in general and motherhood, which is, of course, there's a train going by. Which is vulnerability and really speaking our truth. And I know you started your career in the fitness industry. So can you tell us a little bit about where you are compared to where you are now, where you were, and kind of the bridge that has been gapped through the process?
Yeah, well, okay, where I was before, like you said, I was in the fitness industry. I was a personal trainer. I was a nutrition coach. I worked at various gyms around the city. And once I had kids, I realized that there was not a lot of knowledge out there that actually really helped new moms rehab from pregnancy. So there are so many changes that go on between pregnancy and postpartum with our bodies. And there really wasn't a lot of knowledge out there. When I was training, I was doing mom and baby boot camps. When I first had my babies, I was getting women out there doing all kinds of stuff, only to realize shortly thereafter that I was getting a ton of back pain. And no matter how much more I lifted, how much more I worked out to strengthen, it was actually hurting more. So the more I dove into understanding what was happening in my own core and where pain was coming from, and I ended up leading myself actually down a path trying to fix myself in a really great way that only hurt myself. And I gave myself an injury that I still struggle with. So it taught me a ton about not only the physical core and how to actually rehab it so I could rehab myself and other moms that I was working with, but for me, it was really an opportunity to sort of face things that I wasn't even thinking about, that I didn't even realize were emotions, feelings, things that I felt going through this transition from being a single person to housing babies in my body and then having them on the outside and having to raise them. So there was so much more to it than fitness. And that's what I really found new moms were needing, was a little bit more support. Support is like that key word. That's when it comes to back or core, it all has to do with support, the actual muscles, and then emotional and mental support. So I know you talk a ton about mental health, and fitness is one of those ways that you get a lot of mental health benefits, right? You feel good, you feel energized when you work out. And as a new mom with an injury, and I could barely get out of bed, and I was breastfeeding, and I had my husband traveling, and I was by myself, it was facing a lot of demons and saying, okay, how am I going to actually push through this and get stronger and come out the other side? So it's been a
So,
journey.
so I love this because there's so much in it's a constant, motherhood in itself is a constant evolution, right? I always say these children come into the world, they're like the greatest little teachers that you'll ever have. And we're constantly learning from them, but it's like, they're like, hey, I need you to become this person. And you're like, oh God, I can't. Now I got to work through this stuff. Okay, I've worked through that. Oh, now you need to become this person, right? So it's interesting because if you and I were having this conversation 4 years ago, I would have not been able to connect to the physical part of transformation. Because for me, moving my body in any shape, way, or form, I was like, this is useless. I don't understand it. Because mindset wise, I've always been a smaller person, give or take some weight, always have been a smaller person. Society tells us if you're skinny, you're healthy and you don't need to work out, because why do you need to work out or do anything? And so when I got sick, I was like, clearly skinny is not healthy, right? Like, hello, people, like I'm dying inside. So during recovery, I started moving my body, but I started moving it because of the intense stress and anxiety that I was feeling, not realizing that moving my physical body, lifting weights, running, yoga, whatever, I needed more than yoga. I needed more than yoga. I couldn't just sit there and meditate this away and move it slowly or even quickly. I was just attracted to fast, 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 go, go, go. Like I needed to get rid of all of this excessive shit that I've been building up for years and years and years. The reason why I say this is because motherhood is such a big transformational period. And it's also the greatest excuse that women use not to take care of themselves. So, what is your perspective on that?
My perspective on that is 100%. Two things. What you were just saying regarding that feeling of needing to just get out there and sweat or run or push, that is because you probably, and like most of us, had a lot of emotion inside you, and that is energy in motion, and it needs to go somewhere. So that outlet that we have as an opportunity to get out and walk or run or jump or lift or whatever we can do, it allows that energy to move so it doesn't stagnate within us. Now, to your second question, it was a really good one. We can use it as moms as an excuse, because for sure we're tired, we're overworked, we're up all night, all those kinds of things with newborns. But what actually happens, and this is funny because this is what actually happened to me physically, and you'll see while I'm talking about these different topics how many times the physical element overlaps with the mental emotional one. And for me, what happened was when I got pregnant, I realized that I didn't actually utilize my core in the way that I should, let's say. Okay, so I didn't realize this till after, but now looking back, the minute we have a baby growing inside us, it changes our whole posture, right? We change the way we stand, we change the way we sit, we change the way we walk. And as the baby grows, things shift all over the place, and our core, our mind body connection to our core actually shuts off.
Hmm.
We actually don't breathe in the same way. Our muscles are all backwards. We don't think in the same way, and we don't feel down there in the same way, because it's a lot going on. It's, whether you're going for checkups or whether, the baby's growing, it's putting pressure or it's pain or whatever, we actually start to numb ourselves to this mind body connection between our pelvic floor, our deep inner core, and our mind. So we sort of have this disconnect. Even though we have this great baby growing inside us and we're loving ourselves while we're pregnant, what happens is that this disconnection between the core muscles and the brain starts to trickle in. And postpartum, we start to have this separation between that old body that we knew and this new body that looks nothing like we hoped it would look. And how the hell do we get back to that? And I have no energy and I have no support and I have no tools and nothing works. And then I go to boot camp and I get hurt or something worse. And so we're just, like you said, there's not a lot of role models. And this is all relatively new. Every time I'm talking to people about core rehab, people are like, where was this when I had kids? Who is not telling me this, right? It's so brand new, but it's because we kind of just disconnect, just like, you know, the medical side of having babies versus the midwife side. It's not one is better. It's just where we're focused that we only see that side of things. And sometimes it's until we hurt ourselves or get into a predicament we didn't expect that we open up to a new way of seeing things, which is that transformation that we allow space for.
So when I'm listening to you talk, I'm like, okay, yes, because you would never know that you need someone like you in your life until you've been hurt, until you've been, because it is, you know, you and I talk about, I tell you all the time, I'm peeing my pants all the time. It's getting better. And then
you're like, a lot of things about peeing their pants. So
and then you're like, well, go try this, go do this, go see this person. And I'm like, I just got felt up really inappropriately by this pelvic physiotherapist who told me to do Kegels and to come back in a week.
Okay.
And the truth is, I ain't going to do my fucking Kegels because besides this exact moment, I didn't think about it. So, okay, I guess I should do them right now, right? So understanding that this is a muscle, but nobody tells us that. And I love what you're talking about with this disconnect, because it's almost like you forget about it, right? And then your energy, your brain that's like half functioning is so focused on this infant and, you know, whatever is happening there. And then you're just like, oh, okay. And then it's socially acceptable to wear mom jeans and socially acceptable to have that extra baby weight and all of these things. And then I think it takes like that rebellious type personality to go, fuck stats, fuck culture. I don't want to become that person anymore. Yeah. So what do you like? Because it took me forever. I'm like, Jen, what do you do? Like, I don't understand. Right. We were talking about the whole pearl push-ups, right? Did I say it finally correctly?
It's the pearl pull-ups.
Oh my God. Can I do push-ups in my vagina?
No more pushing. There's been enough pushing going on.
Okay. Let's talk about, I'm just going to shut up. Let's talk about pearl pull-ups. And then I want to talk about like, take me through a process of like a woman, ideal woman that would come to you and how you are actually core rehabbing physically, mentally, socially, spiritually, all of that stuff. So what the fuck is a pearl? A what? A pearl?
Pearl pull-ups.
Pull-ups. Okay.
So they're like pull-ups, like chin-ups. You can imagine yourself grabbing onto the bar and pulling yourself above the bar. Basically what these are pull-ups for your pelvic floor. Your pelvic floor is like a sort of a sling of muscles that houses the holes in your body. So urethra, vagina, and anus go right through the pelvic floor. The pelvic floor is the bottom of your core. The top of your core is your diaphragm. So what these two specific muscles do is work together, that when you inhale, they both go down and expand, and as you exhale, they both raise up and you're bringing them back into place, down and up. So what we actually do, and it's interesting that you had said someone had told you to just go do Kegels, because those
I'm not even saying it right.
No, and it rhymes with bagels. I know.
Bagels and Kegels.
Yeah, but the thing is that there are about 13 different kinds of Kegels at least. And a lot of the ones that we do are as if you imagine a bicep curl, okay? And we like to have a long range of motion extending all the way out and then bringing it all the way back in. That would be one repetition. When it comes to our pelvic floor, oftentimes we are taught just to squeeze. It's like, okay, sit at the street light when you're driving down the road and squeeze, squeeze, squeeze till the cows come home. But actually, we don't all have an issue with needing to squeeze tighter. And oftentimes we have different pelvic floor dysfunctions that don't require us squeezing. They actually require us doing that deep, long inhale, which allows the expansion and the relaxation of the pelvic floor. So without getting too scientific on you and getting you to imagine all of this, basically what you want to do is you just want to imagine while you're inhaling, and I have people do this with their eyes closed because it allows you to connect deeper into the mind and the body and really concentrate, because sometimes it takes my clients weeks or months to really get this exercise down. So don't worry, you are not alone, and we can have some more pearl pull-up sessions together if you need it, okay?
Oh my God.
Yeah, so I can talk you through it. And actually, that's one of the resources that I wanted to give your listeners is a audio of me that I recorded for you to follow it and listen and imagine yourself doing these pearl pull-ups. So you're relaxing the pelvic floor at the bottom of your inhale. Before you exhale, you're imagining a pearl, just a tiny little pearl that you're pulling up with your pelvic floor. Whether it's your urethra, your vagina, or your anus, any of them individually or all of them, you can.
How can you say this without laughing?
Well, I know, because I've said it thousands of times.
You're picking up a pearl with your anus.
You know what? It actually can feel good. And this is the best thing about the core. Orgasms go on all the time. And if you can learn how to breathe properly,
Interesting.
you can have orgasms all over the town. And let me tell you, it's worth it.
We've had those conversations too. We've turned heads in bars. Yeah. You remember that?
Remember that? Yeah.
Yes.
He wanted to come closer, that guy. When he heard that, he's like, whoa, I'm going to that table.
Exactly. So, okay. This conversation could make a wild turn into orgasms. But the funny thing is that is a core of pleasure, a core of who you are, core of your creative energy and all of that stuff. So maybe I'll have you back on for the core of pleasure of orgasms conversation. But realizing pelvic floor, I've also heard that the pelvic floor is where you carry a lot of your stress.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So if you're stressed out, you're peeing your pants, your anus ain't tight, you can't pick up pearls, then you
too tight. I'm telling you, too tight is an issue.
Oh, too tight. Yes.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Issues. If you're peeing your pants when you're out running and stuff, you could have a hypertonic.
Yeah, I've heard of this.
It could be just too tight and you actually need to inhale and expand. And that's where this comes in. And that was a good segue. I was going
to say, do you think, I know, sorry, I'm cutting you off. Do you think this has any correlation if you have a tight ass, tight anus, or a loose anus in correlation with your mental ability to let shit go?
Being anal? Yeah, this is interesting. We might have to do some kind of clinical trial on that one, Heather.
Oh my God. I do not want to be in this trial.
So what I was just going to say though, was the fact that your pelvic floor, like you said, carries a lot of stress. And here's really one of the reasons why. Is just like when we get stressed and we get in that hyper fight or flight, high sympathetic nervous system state, which is stress, alert, cortisol running through our body, we seize up, we tighten up, right? We have this clenching response.
Right.
So when you're wanting to do your pearl pull-ups or relax your nervous system, those two things happen through breathing. Through full, deep, long inhales and exhales, you calm the nervous system and you relax and fully contract the pelvic floor so as to decrease the physical stress response on the body. So there's a lot of correlations and parallels between the physical and mental core.
And another correlation with research backing up meditation, mindfulness, breath work, so that people be like, oh, well, I can't do it. Do it. You'll have better orgasms. Your anus won't be so tight.
And why not, right? Why do you not like that?
Oh my God. Brian just walked in. So he's like, what are they talking about? He can't hear what you're saying. He's probably just like, what is she saying? So anywho.
I'll fill him in later.
Okay. So people want abs. Core is not abs. That abs are one aspect of core. Can you talk about what your core actually is and that it's not just abs?
Good. Great question. So 2 things on that. Again, I always feel like I have a couple points to make, but the first one is I always say abs are made on the cushion, which it's popular in the fitness world to say abs are made in the kitchen because it's not always the fitness, it's what you eat, people say, right? I go one step further at FitMama and say abs are made on a cushion, which is where you sit on your meditation cushion, you sit in a place where it's quiet, you are creating space, calm in your life, and that is where your abs are truly made. Because if abs are what you're wanting, it is that flat look that comes from not overeating, not over drinking, not, binging on things, not skipping exercise or doing the things that actually nurture you. And so in my book and in what we teach at FitMama, it's all about nurturing you. And to get the abs that you want, which is the external superficial stuff that we all look for, it all starts from within, in that deep inner core. So to actually flatten your belly, it requires the muscles that are called the TVA to wrap around and seal the front. I call it heal your seal, which is about embracing and getting back into it and nurturing this whole core postpartum. I know. I'm a poet. I seriously write poems that rhyme, and I wrote a chapter or a little.
You're an inappropriate poet.
I do. You're right. You're so true on that. So it's this TVA that has to flatten for then the rectus abdominis and the obliques to actually give you that abs, flat abs, tight core look. But it has to start from within. It's like building a house on quicksand. And that will look great for a week or a month until a little water comes and slowly it starts sinking. And this is what happens with a lot of my clients. So to kind of segue into what you were asking earlier, my clients come to me most often because of some type of core dysfunction. Yes, they're noticing that they're leaking pee, or they're not able to lift as much when they go back to their workouts or fitness regime. Something doesn't feel right down there. There's a heaviness. There's like
all of a sudden, Jen, your audio went like right up.
Oh, curious. I did not touch anything.
I know. And it's weird because maybe it's Zoom because I didn't touch anything either. Okay, go ahead.
So they have some sort of core dysfunction. Another really common one postpartum, if we get back to exercising too soon and we haven't done the pull-ups and healing the seal, what happens is prolapse, which is where one of your organs actually falls through your vagina, which is something we want, right? So it's never wanted, and it can be grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, it's coming through. So you could have a grade 1 or 2 prolapse where it's just hanging heavy, and that's what you might feel in your pelvis. It's like something's down there pushing, and it just might be your bladder or uterus pushing down. So that's one of those things to look into. And that's where I recommend 100% of women who have had a baby go and see a pelvic floor physiotherapist that you alluded to earlier, who does possibly and most likely do an internal exam of your pelvic floor to see, is she hypertonic, which means too tight, hypotonic, or which is too loose, dysfunctional in some way, as in when she breathes in, it doesn't relax, it contracts, and the whole thing is off. That's what the pelvic floor physio will be able to assess, which is the part I personally do not do.
Right.
Then
and that was helpful.
Yeah. Right.
So once you have that diagnosis, they come to you, they're working with you, and you're helping them take the actions, the accountability, the support to rehab your core, whether it's physically, but also it's going to be in correlation with the core, your core in life and motherhood.
Absolutely. Because the key thing is that a lot of the time, people who have these core dysfunctions need to slow down.
Right.
And that's my messages from the good old universe to say, hey girl, nice idea working out 3 times a day when you have newborn babies, but this is not very smart. Slow down, slow down, slow down, slow down. And every time I said, no, I'll just fix you and keep going, it went boom and gave me a big slap in the face. So this is usually when I get people where they have to slow down and they're resisting it in some way, and they're needing to rehab. They know that because something's dysfunctional. So it's like that's always usually that catalyst to say, okay, fine, I'll slow down, right? And so that's when I get to do my work with them and start to really have them get into the place where they're starting to enjoy the motherhood journey. They're starting to truly nurture themselves and not be rushing and waiting for the next milestone. And, oh, when my kids are stopped breastfeeding, I'll get my body back. And then, oh, when they're in school, I'll have time again. And, oh, when they sleep, I'll do this. It's that back and forth that we just try and, and let's get into the now. Let's enjoy now.
I love it. And yeah, it's such a physical, I mean, everyone has to take their own journey to get to where a point in their lives where they can ask for help, where they're open to receiving help, and where they're open to taking action and truly pushing through the belief systems of I can't have what I want, right? And it's a journey. It's fun when you're on the other side, when you see this as a challenge. Just don't give up hope. That's what I say to people. Like, look for the person that's speaking your language, that person that's like, I go against the current. I'm not with the social norm of like your body. Oh, you look good for having 3 children. You look good for, I don't know, being 50. Like, what are you supposed to say? It's like, you're good enough. Like, what people are always judging you and always pushing their perception on you. But what do you want in your life, right? How do you want to feel physically, mentally? And I'm such a big advocate for, you are your greatest asset to your children, because they're looking at you going, okay, cool. Mom doesn't invest anything in herself, so I'm going to do the same. And what's your I was going to say, what's your core message? What's your definition of sustainable motherhood? What does that mean to you?
I love that. I would say number one would be to be open-minded to the fact that whatever definition you have or whatever image of perfect motherhood that you want is be open to change. Like, being open to knowing that everything is subject to change. The only real constant we have is the fact that, yeah, it's going to change again. And it's this control that we have as moms, right? And so many things are out of our control that I think as we can let things go, it becomes more sustainable. When we don't start judging others and go, oh, they fed their kids that, or they took their kids there, or their seat belt is this way when they're this age or this weight. It's like, first of all, when you judge another, you're judging yourself, and you're just letting yourself stay in that place of negativity, which is X-nay on sustainable. You feel like crap and you have no energy in that space. So yeah. I think a lot of it is just staying grounded in non-judgment and being open-minded. Be curious every day. Who knows what it's going to bring, but can you bring love? Can you bring peace? Can you bring joy? Can you bring reverence for the fact that you are alive and have children that are alive? Amazing.
Yeah, exactly. My neighbor is talking right outside the window, so we'll see if that seeps in too. But Jen, where can people get a hold of you? So you have your book. They can find that on Amazon, which is on Kindle right now. Depending on when this goes out on the podcast, the Mom is in Control podcast, you may have your physical book out. You have a podcast coming out, but where else can they get a hold of you?
They can find me on lovefitmama.com. Love Fit Mama. We say being a fit mama all starts with love.
Awesome. Love it. And when does your podcast roll out?
The podcast is launching November 15th. So I'm very excited for that.
Yay. Awesome.
Podcast, the work into your workout.
Love it. Cool. Well, thank you, Jen. As always, I love chatting with you, and I will see you in a few hours because you're speaking at our Thrive event here in Windsor.
You are such an inspiration, Heather. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Talk soon.